In 2007, Guillermo del Toro said there was one project he would kill to make, one story that haunted him for decades, one film that represented everything he believed about cinema, about monsters, and about humanity itself. And that project was Frankenstein. Or, as some others might say, Frankenstein. I'm not the latter, sorry. Fast forward to 2025. Del Toro finally did it. After 30 years of waiting, fighting, and refusing to compromise, his Frankenstein movie is now on Netflix, and it's got 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Jacob Elordi was nominated for a Golden Globe for playing the creature. The American Film Institute named it one of the top 10 films of the year. But here's the wild part. This movie almost never happened. Disney killed it. Universal killed it. Del Toro himself nearly walked away because he was too scared to ruin his dream. So how did Guillermo del Toro's obsession with Frankenstein finally become reality? And was the 30-year wait worth it? Well, let's find out. Guillermo del Toro grew up Catholic in Guadalajara, Mexico, and he had a problem with saints. "I never quite understood the saints," he said in a 2025 interview. "And then when I saw Boris Karloff on the screen, I understood what a saint or a messiah looked like." For Del Toro, Frankenstein's monster wasn't horror, it was holy, a misunderstood creation abandoned by his maker, a being punished for his existence. Sound familiar? That's Catholic guilt meets Gothic literature, and for young Guillermo, it was a religious awakening. But Del Toro didn't just love the 1931 James Whale film. He was obsessed with Mary Shelley's original 1818 novel, a story about creation, abandonment, and the consequences of playing God. And he noticed something. No one had ever truly adapted it faithfully. Kenneth Branagh tried in 1994 with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, using a script Del Toro called pretty much perfect, but even that version compromised the novel's core. Christopher Lee nailed the emptiness of the monster in Hammer's Frankenstein films. Boris Karloff nailed the tragedy, but nobody had captured the full scope, the philosophy, the pathos, the Miltonian tragedy of Paradise Lost woven into Shelley's DNA. Del Toro wanted to fix that. In 2007, he started writing. By 2008, he had concept art, storyboards, and a plan. He wanted Bernie Wrightson, the legendary comic artist whose 1983 Frankenstein illustrations are considered definitive, to design the creature. He wanted to make this the Frankenstein adaptation that finally honored Shelley's vision. And then, nothing happened for years. In 2008, Universal Pictures signed Del Toro to a massive first-look deal. Frankenstein was part of a slate that included Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Slaughterhouse-5, and other dark literature adaptations. Del Toro was hot off Hellboy 2. This was his moment. He cast Doug Jones, his frequent collaborator from Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy, as the creature. They did makeup tests, and Del Toro designed the look with Wrightson as inspiration. It was happening, except it didn't. You see, Universal had bigger plans. They wanted a dark universe, a connected franchise of monster movies like Marvel, but with Dracula, the Mummy, and Frankenstein. What could be better for their parks? And they wanted Del Toro to fit his vision into their corporate roadmap. And Del Toro refused. "This is my dream project," he said. "I'm not making it for a franchise. I'm making it because I've waited my whole life to do this right." Universal shelved the project. Just like that. Doug Jones later said the shelved creature design was hauntingly beautiful. Well, we'll never see it. And Del Toro, he moved on. He made Pacific Rim. He made Crimson Peak. He made The Shape of Water and won an Oscar for Best Director. But Frankenstein sat in development hell collecting dust. Here's where it gets interesting. Between 2008 and 2020, Universal kept asking Del Toro to make Frankenstein. Donna Langley, the Universal chairperson, approached him multiple times. "Let's get this going," she'd say. And every time, Del Toro said, "Nah." Why? Because he was terrified. In a 2016 interview, Del Toro explained, "Frankenstein, to me, is the pinnacle of everything. Part of me wants to do a version of it. Part of me has chickened out for more than 25 years. I dream I can make the greatest Frankenstein ever. But then if you make it, you've made it. Whether it's great or not, it's done. You cannot dream about it anymore. That's the tragedy of a filmmaker. You landed a 10 or you landed a 6.5. But you were at the Olympics already and you were judged." Read that again, or listen to it. Del Toro was so scared of ruining his dream that he couldn't bring himself to make it real. Game of Thrones books. Anyways. The movie lived in his head as perfection, and perfection can't survive reality. So the project stayed dead until 2020. In a promotional interview for Antlers, Del Toro mentioned that if he had unlimited funding, he'd make Frankenstein as a 2 to 3 film series because the novel's complexity demanded it. He was still thinking about it, still designing it in his mind, and still obsessed. And then, in 2023, Netflix came calling with their massive budget. After Del Toro's Pinocchio won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature in 2023, Netflix offered Del Toro something Universal never would: complete creative freedom and a massive budget. The reported budget? $120 million. Yep, that's where all your subscription money's going. For a stop-motion-inspired Gothic horror drama about a 200-year-old novel on a streaming platform. Del Toro said yes, and this time he meant it. Casting moved fast. Oscar Isaac signed on as Victor Frankenstein. Mia Goth joined as Elizabeth. Christopher Waltz, Del Toro's go-to for morally complicated characters, signed on as the arms dealer funding Victor's experiments. And for the creature, Del Toro wanted Andrew Garfield. Imagine that! They spent 9 months designing Garfield's version of the monster. But then the SAG-AFTRA strikes happened and Garfield had scheduling conflicts, so he dropped out. Del Toro had 9 weeks to redesign the entire creature for a new actor. One that was much, much bigger than Andrew Garfield. Not in terms of fame, but in terms of body. A hairstylist who'd worked on Priscilla recommended Jacob Elordi, the 6'5" Euphoria star who joked on set about being cast as Frankenstein. Elordi wasn't joking anymore. Del Toro scrapped everything and rebuilt the creature from scratch for Elordi's frame. Bernie Wrightson, the artist who inspired the original design, had died in 2017. But his illustrated compilation, Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein, became the visual bible for the film. Filming started in February 2024 in Toronto and wrapped in September. The movie was shot on 35mm film. Del Toro brought in Dan Louston, his cinematographer from Crimson Peak and The Shape of Water, to create a gothic, painterly look. Alexander Desplat composed the score, aiming for something very lyrical and emotional, not horrific. And on August 30th, 2025, Frankenstein premiered at the Venice Film Festival. So what is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein actually about? The film opens in 1857 on a Danish ship trapped in Arctic ice. Captain Anderson discovers a dying Victor Frankenstein. Then the creature boards the ship, demanding Victor's surrender. Victor tells his story, the creature tells his, and the film unfolds as a dual-perspective tragedy, exactly like Mary Shelley's novel. Victor's mother dies giving birth to his younger brother, William. Victor, grieving and abused by his aristocratic surgeon father, becomes obsessed with curing death through science. He's expelled from medical school for reanimating corpses. An arms dealer named Harlander funds his experiments in exchange for immortality. Victor builds the creature from hanged criminals and soldiers killed in the Crimean War. He electrifies the body, it works, but Victor, horrified by what he's created, chains the creature in a cellar and treats him like an animal. The creature escapes, he wanders the woods, gets shot by hunters, and hides in a mill. He secretly helps a farming family, chopping firewood, building sheep pens, and they call him the Spirit of the Forest. He befriends a blind old man who teaches him to read and speak. When he discovers the truth about his creation, the creature returns to Victor and begs for a companion. Victor refuses. He says, "Hell no, you ain't gonna breed your monster ass!" The creature attacks, Elizabeth is accidentally shot, William dies, the creature carries Elizabeth's body to a cave where she dies. Victor pursues the creature to the Arctic. They reconcile, calling each other father and son. Victor dies, the creature frees the ship from the ice and reaches out to embrace the sunlight. It's not a horror movie. It's a tragedy about fathers and sons, about creation and abandonment, about what it means to be human when the world calls you a monster. Critics are split. The New York Times called it a critic's pick that captures the novel's debt to Paradise Lost. The Hollywood Reporter praised it as a visually sumptuous and emotionally charged. Empire gave it 4 stars, calling it unusually faithful to Shelley. But The Guardian said its luxurious Victorian aesthetic sanitizes the novel's raw horror. Variety argued the film's 150-minute runtime dilutes the novel's concentrated philosophical power. The consensus? Del Toro made a Gothic romance that prioritizes the novel's spiritual core over literal fidelity. It's Del Toro's Frankenstein, not Shelley's. Not Wales, but something in between. Now let's talk about Jacob Elordi. When Elordi was cast, people were skeptical. The guy from Euphoria, The Kissing Booth, Saltburn, playing one of literature's most iconic monsters. But Elordi understood the assignment. The creature isn't a villain, he's a victim. He's abandoned by his creator, hunted by humans, and denied the love he desperately craves. He's tragic. And Elordi nails it, totally emo and all. He doesn't play the creature as a monster, he's more like a not scary farm kind of like heartthrob vampire guy that everyone wants to bang. He plays him as a child, curious, innocent, heartbroken kind of guy. When he learns to speak Elizabeth's name, it's devastating. When he cries out, "Victor!" as the tower explodes, you feel his betrayal. Critics noticed. The Hollywood Reporter said Elordi gives a standout performance. The New York Times highlighted his ability to find humanity in the inhumane. RogerEbert.com praised Del Toro for expanding the humility found in the classic story through Elordi's portrayal. Elordi is nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes. He won the Gotham Vanguard tribute. He's the frontrunner for multiple critics' awards. For Elordi, this is his There Will Be Blood moment, the performance that proves he's more than a heartthrob. He's a legitimate actor. And Del Toro, he finally got his saint on screen. Guillermo del Toro waited 30 years to make Frankenstein. He was offered the chance multiple times. He said no because he was scared. Scared of ruining his dream. Scared of failing. Scared of landing a 6.5 on IMDb instead of a 10. So, did he land a 10? Depends on who you ask. It's got 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's one of AFI's top 10 films of 2025. It's nominated for 5 Golden Globes. Hell, we're still talking about it months later. Jacob Elordi's career just changed forever, but some critics say it's too long, too reverent, too Del Toro, and not enough Shelley. Here's the thing though. Del Toro didn't make this movie for critics. He made it for himself. For the kid in Guadalajara who saw Boris Karloff and understood what a saint looked like. For the filmmaker who spent 3 decades dreaming about how to honor Mary Shelley's novel without sacrificing his own vision. And in that sense, he absolutely landed a 10. Because Frankenstein isn't just a movie, it's a love letter to monsters, to outcasts, to anyone who's ever felt abandoned by their creator, to anyone who's ever been called inhuman for being too human. Del Toro once said, "The battle in telling stories is on 2 fronts, the size of the screen, but also the size of the ideas." With Frankenstein, he conquered both. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on Netflix now, you can go watch it. If you've already seen it, let me know what you thought. Is this the definitive Frankenstein adaptation? Or is it just another version of a story that's been told too many times? Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.